Duh. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Isaiah Rashad record. The Sun's Tirade. Isaiah Rashad is a Top Dawg Entertainment signee and a rapper who I understand hails from Tennessee. It was not too long ago that he dropped his somewhat hyped Sylvia demo, which I was kind of indifferent toward. Thought some of his deliveries and some of the instrumentals on this thing were way too smooth, a little too middle of the road. However, there was potential on this thing, potential for Isaiah to come into his own, gain his own personality, get some fire into his songs, get some passion into his songs, maybe attack some loftier topics. I don't know. What I do know is that I was looking forward to his latest project over here, given that I had enjoyed songs such as Free Lunch. And yeah, now that the album is out, I want to review it, but I'm not reviewing it by myself. I'm going to be talking about this record with the one, the only Mr. Luke James, not the singer, a fellow YouTube music reviewer who puts out great reviews every week, and we are just going to be shooting the shit over this record. So enjoy the conversation that we have. Again, appreciate you watching. Transition. Hey everyone. Now we are here through the magic of the internet talking about this new Isaiah Rashad album with, of course, the one, the only Luke James, not the singer, of course, not the singer. And
Nope.
you can check out his YouTube channel. It's linked down there in the description. He has lots of reviews that he drops every month as well. And we're just going to be shooting the shit on this new Isaiah Rashad record. Let me know in general what you thought of the album, because if I am correct, you liked Sylvia demo, right?
Yeah, I kind of have to start off by saying that Sylvia demo is one of my favorite projects to come out within the past 5 years. It just really resonated with me. I thought he had a lot of great content. He was mixing some rapping with the singing. His lyricism, I think, was better on that one than it was this project. And other than Kendrick's work on TDE, that was always the other album that I really enjoyed from them. I just always had Isaiah as my second favorite TDE member. So I was excited to hear this album. I was waiting about 2.5 years, but then I started to lose a little bit of excitement because of these tracks he was dropping over the past year or so. Not that they were trash tracks, they were just kind of good. They're very smooth, lots of bass, but there wasn't anything to them that blew me away and had me going, oh, god damn, Isaiah is back. This album is going to be the shit. I didn't get anything like that from these tracks he was dropping leading up to this project. So when I finally got this one, I saw it was 17 tracks long, and I'm thinking, oh god, please tell me it's not going to be 17 tracks of all this smooth, mellow shit. Because with me, I do like those vibes, and he even says on this project he makes music for the vibers, so you know that's what everyone is saying.
It says that on Rope and Rose Gold, I think.
Yeah, and I get it. I understand why people like this one if you just want some mellow stuff like this. But it was almost too mellow for me. I found it very flat. I found the songwriting, it wasn't very focused, because he does bring a little bit of content. Obviously, he's battled substance abuse issues within the past couple of years. He had another child, and he kind of scrapes the surface on these topics. But after such a long hiatus, I was hoping he would go much deeper and really go into detail about some of these things, because that's what he did on Sylvia demo. And he was also rapping better on that project, like I said. This one, he's mumbling and croaking through some of these songs to the point that it was just ridiculous to me. Like that song, A Lot, the Mike Will Made It one, is kind of a banger, and then he's just going
yeah, that's kind of like a super hedonistic track. I feel like he just kind of wanted to make this like really druggy dark banger. I believe not too long before that cut, he actually makes reference to like listening to a lot of Lil Yachty.
Yeah, he does. And actually I saw, sorry, go ahead.
Kind of tell that he's sort of going for that vibe on some of the tracks.
Yeah, he said that in an interview, actually, that he's been listening to some Lil Yachty, and I read that. I was like, oh my god. Last thing I want to hear is that one of my favorite artists is listening and taking notes from Lil Yachty. But, you know, I understand he said he kind of wanted to bridge the gap and sort of do this newer sound that artists are doing, because that's what a lot of the kids like these days. Those damn kids, Anthony. But this project for me, it was so disappointing. I don't think it's an awful project by any means, but this was not what I wanted from Isaiah Rashad, and it just felt very dull and unfocused, especially that second half, man. The second half of the album is just damn near unbearable to me. There was maybe 1 or 2 songs on it I enjoyed, but what were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts, things I agree and I disagree with in terms of what you just said. For one, I mean, I do think the project is overly long at 17 tracks. Sylvia demo had its moments. I thought it had potential, but not so much that I thought Isaiah Rashad was the kind of artist who could carry an album for 17 tracks. And that certainly seems to be the case. And in the second half, it's sort of ironic. I mean, he does really fall apart at that point on the record. But simultaneously, you could tell this is also a point on the album where he tried to change it up and do something different. On a lot, you do have that kind of dark, spacey, hedonistic banger where he's rapping a lot about drugs and sex and so on and so forth. Then you have AA, which is kind of like that R&B inspired track where I think he's rapping about just like drinking and driving, and that track is sort of really in your face and really energetic. Don't Matter stood out to me as well, and Brendo was easily one of the sleepiest and most low-key cuts on the entire project. And By George just seemed to me to have like no focus whatsoever and just like totally boring finish to the project. And then Find a Topic was one of two moments on the project where it felt like he was trying to be self-aware by critiquing and kind of straw-manning his critics at a few points on the record, saying like, oh, well, why don't you find a topic, man? Why don't you rap about a thing? Just like focus on a thing. But when you have a project that is so unfocused as this one is, to the point where it becomes really a drag to listen to toward the end, I mean, it's a legitimate criticism. It's like people are telling you this because people aren't making this criticism up. I mean, this is kind of a specific criticism. And I get that maybe it's something that he wasn't ready to deal with, because I think TDE fans are a very specific breed of rap fan. I think that's the kind of thing they expect and they want from their rap songs. So for Isaiah Rashad to sign to that label and sort of be injected directly into the bloodstream of that fan base, and they're like, where are your topics, man? Just like, can't you be like Kendrick and do a concept or something? I understand that he might not want to give into that pressure and he might want to make fun of it a little bit, but as you were saying, some of these personal issues that he's gone through over the past couple of years, they only show up here and there in like really faint references and bars, and he doesn't really go into it in any significant way. Now, beyond the second half, where I agree it falls apart, the first half I'm really enamored with. I mean, I really like Free Lunch. I really like For the SQUAW. Rope is okay. What's Wrong with Kendrick Lamar, I thought was a fantastic track. Park is one moment where I think, even though it doesn't really have a strong hook or anything, his delivery is so amped and energetic and captivating. B-Day I thought was okay. Slick the SHOCKA, even though that was a low-key cut, I thought the vocal melody and the guitars on that track were really beautiful. I thought it was a moving love song. Even though he kind of makes fun of the idea of focusing on a topic on a track, there are quite a few tracks here where he does try to focus on a topic. And I think some of the lyrics on this track were really moving, like when he's rapping about how this person, he's the end of this person's month. This person is the start of his day. I thought was really nice. Titty and Dalla with J-Rock I thought was pretty good, and Stuck in the Mud I thought was a pretty cool concept about all these people kind of being stuck in the same rut that he is, and I thought SZA's performance on that track was pretty as well. I think in some respects this is like a more amped and a more hyped record than Sylvia Demo, but as you were saying, he does have those moments where he does seem to lose kind of that baseline of coherence that he had throughout the Sylvia Demo project, like on that one sort of second half of, I think it might be A Lot, where he's kind of going into this weird interlude where he's just like rapping about Xanax, and he's just like, and he's just like mumbling, and he sounds barely alive. And I think the project kind of has this seductive drugginess to it that I think is pretty cool. At points that reminds me of records like Live Love ASAP, for example. It seems like the whole point of the record a lot of the time is to be as smooth and as intoxicating as possible. I think Sylvia Demo was certainly smooth, but this new one over here feels like, I've literally like gone into a drug trip or something at some points. And I think that sort of lends it an aesthetic quality that I think is pretty cool. Vocally and lyrically, I mean, sometimes he goes into some cool ideas, but I still think he kind of suffers from this problem where he sounds just like an amalgamation of his contemporaries. You know, he still very much sounds like a blend of Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole to me. In fact, this whole project itself, especially the first half, to me sounded like something that wouldn't come out on TDE, but like J. Cole's record label instead.
Yeah.
You know, if you had told me this is some new rapper on J. Cole's label, I'd be like, okay, it makes sense. You know, sounds like something that would drop on this label, you know? You know, in ways it kind of reminded me of that Bass record that we reviewed together not too long ago. You know,
I was going to say that exact same thing when we were preparing for this review. But the reason I liked that one a little bit more than this was because that one was half an hour.
Sure.
That was only half an hour of smooth vibes. This one, while I did like the first half better than the second half, I did find myself getting kind of sleepy and drowsy by like track 7 because I just was waiting for him to do something a little different just to make it interesting. And like you said, he does mess around a little bit on that second half. That By George song I thought was awful a lot. I didn't care for that. AA just sounded like some generic Southern rapper mixtape type of shit. And this whole project almost seemed a little bit like it should have came first and Sylvia Demo would have been the one. Like it's just a more focused project to me, in my opinion. But
to me, Sylvia Demo seemed like a little limited, though. It seemed like a little one-dimensional, in my opinion. This one seems more varied, but it feels like this is a commercial project that, like many commercial projects, when it's your debut commercial project, you kind of overextend yourself. You try to do everything, like anything and everything that you record, you just throw it onto the record, and it doesn't necessarily work as an entire album, you know? I feel like I understand what you're saying because Sylvia Demo seems more cohesive, you know.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think its maturity level makes it seem like that album is the one that should have come out after, and this one should be the one that's first. This to me seems like, okay, this is my commercial record. I'm going to try to make a little something for everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to drop this crazy track where I'm rapping over these fast, speedy break beats that, like, you know, Andre 3000 would normally be on or something like that. You know, that track I thought was pretty interesting. Although that is one of a couple moments on here where I find the refrains kind of corny, where he's like, pimps, hoes, fingers, masturbating, yeah, pimps, hoes, fingers,
yeah, that lyric was a bit off for me too. That actually,
yeah, it was definitely like an eyebrow raising moment.
Yeah, and that song reminded me of that Joey Badass one. Remember that one where he had the same type of beat? I think
yeah, that one off Before the Money toward the end of the record, where he's like also rapping over a fast break beat.
Yeah. As for favorite songs on this one, though, I also really liked For SQUAW. I thought that just was very smooth. I liked the drum work on that. It kind of took me back to the 90s a little bit. And just the idea, it was simple, but it was focused enough. He's just trying to take care of his family and do the right thing. So I did appreciate that one. Rope, that first half kind of reminded me of a song off J-Rock's album, Telegram, just the bass line, the way it was going. And then on the second half, I noticed they had the same sample from A Tribe Called Quest on Lyrics to Go. So that was a pretty cool moment. I appreciated that one. And just the Southern nuances throughout I thought were really cool. Like with Silk to Shocka, how some of the lyrics come from an old Silk to Shocka album, Charge It to the Game. It has a hook from Fiend on there. So he took the lyrics from that. And then Titty and Dalla, obviously 2 Chainz used to be Titty Boy, and he was in the group Players Circle with Dalla. So just, I like those little Southern nuances. He always brought that, just like on Sylvia Demo with Brad Jordan and Kevin Miller. Those are things that I found interesting because I've always been a fan of the Southern hip hop scene. So that added a little bit of an interesting factor for me, but I can't help but feel like this album would have been one of my favorite albums of the year if it were like 12 tracks. 12 or 13 tracks, I think this would have been a really dope project. But then, like we've discussed already multiple times in this review, it just sort of extends itself a bit too long.
I kind of agree. You know, you say around track 7, you started to get kind of underwhelmed by it. I mean, for me, the perfect cutoff would have been like track 11, and then maybe throw Find a Topic on there as a finisher, just to be like, aha, you know, it's like, you know, I'm referencing the fact that you guys think I can't focus on a topic. You know, it seemed like it could have been a more interesting self-aware moment, but, you know, maybe not as great as it could have been. I do want to say I did pronounce that track title wrongly. You did pronounce correctly, Silk the Shaka. Sometimes I mix up my I's and my L's, so I apologize for that. But yeah, you know, that second half, I have to fully agree. It does really fall apart there, and my least favorite tracks really just come one after another on there. You know, I am really enamored with the first half because to me that kind of feels like Sylvia Demo plus. a lot of the time. Sure, maybe he does kind of lose his composure a little bit because of those druggy passages. But I think that's a part of the appeal. It's a part of the character of the record. That's part of the concept of the album. For him to be going through these sort of moments where things are really hazy and things are kind of unsure and things are hard to read and hard to define. But then once he kind of starts experimenting with all of these weird sounds that I don't necessarily think complement him, don't play to his strengths, and don't really fit with the vibe in the first half of the record, it all kind of goes out the window for me. You were talking about how you appreciate some of the southern vibes of the record. I really appreciate how jazzy the first half of the record is. I love just the jazzy flavors of the instrumentals. Some of those Sylvia demo instrumentals I didn't think were as dynamic as the instrumentals on this record. Some of which I'm just super impressed with. I just wish that every song could have been as consistently good in the second half as I think the first half is.
Yeah. So for you, do you think this is a step up or a step down from Sylvia
in
Demo?
Some ways a step up, in some ways a step down. I mean, the fact that he overextended himself led to a really inconsistent project. But also the moments that are the brightest on this record, I think kind of outshine my favorite moments from Sylvia Demo. In that respect, I'm kind of torn on the record. I see him progress. I just feel like going into the future, he needs to play to his strengths more and, only drop an experiment in there when it really works and it really fits with the tone of the record. And, just cut the fat in general. Like when something's not working, when something's going on too long, when you've already made a track about a certain subject twice already on the same record, consider like making it a little trimmer so that the overall statement of your album has a bit more impact and doesn't lose steam as people are going through these 17 tracks and thinking to themselves, and not every one of these is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing I felt with this one is there wasn't really much in the way of standout songs that really blew me away. Like I can listen to a lot of these songs and I think they're good. They're smooth. There's some nice bass in them, but it didn't give me enough moments where I was really taken aback and like rewinding. Did he just say that shit? Or, oh, that flow was crazy. Or this part in the beat was crazy. Like it was just very flat and kind of solid. But I was hoping to hear more aggressive rapping on some of these songs as well, because we remember what he did on tracks like Shot You Down, where he went off. Heavenly Father on Sylvia Demo is one where he goes really deep. Like that's probably still my favorite personal Isaiah Rashad track. I love that track. And I guess I was just hoping for some more deep moments on this one because he was gone for so long. So, sure. Some people told me, oh, your expectations were too high. Just take it for what it is. It's just vibes. And I understand that point of view, but I think it's fair to have high expectations if you have a favorite artist and you have to wait 2.5 years for their project. I don't think there's
you're just like that guy at the start of the record, he's just like, yo man, what is June, July, and now August all have in common? I ain't heard your record yet, dude. I ain't heard it yet. So yeah, you were that guy he was referencing right there at the start of the record, man.
You're born in 1991. That shit is weird.
that skit was so weird.
Yeah.
Like to me, that moment seemed like such a straw man. Like who would say that? Like, wow, man, it's weird. You're born in 1991 and you're sleeping with girls that were born in 1994. That's crazy. Like why is a 3-year difference between two young people crazy? I don't understand. It seemed like such a straw man moment or something.
I think what made it so funny to me is just when you think, like I'm a bit older too, so when I think of someone who was born in 91, that shit is kind of weird to me. Like just you can look back and remember what you were doing in 91 and what the scene was like, just the age difference between whoever was saying that and him. Maybe that's what I took anyway.
I mean, thinking about it, it's not really that big of a, I don't know, I guess a generational shock since, I think in 91 I was like in grade school. So, I was still a kid technically, not too far away from whatever he was doing, but I digress. Generally, I liked the project, and there were moments that I disliked. I'm sort of feeling around the same level of enjoyment as I did for Sylvia Demo, but for different reasons. I feel like it's an album that I'm torn a little bit by. It has its pros, it has its cons, whereas Sylvia Demo just kind of exemplified the same strengths and the same weaknesses from the beginning to the end of the project, in my opinion. This one over here, it has its high highs and it has its serious lows.
Yeah, for me, Sylvia Demo, I just like it so much more. It was just more focused. And again, it was the content. I think there were a lot of moments on Sylvia Demo with his lyricism, where it was really raw. And I came out of that project feeling like I really knew who this new artist was at the time and what he was going through and where he was from. So, you know, I guess more content on this would have made a big difference for me. But there are still songs on here I really enjoy and that I can vibe with just off the strength of how smooth they are and just kind of relaxing. But again, 17 tracks of pretty much this whole type of sound, just kind of flat.
What do you think about the, what are you feeling like for a score on the record?
For me, man, I hate to say it because I wanted to love this one so much, but I just didn't. I don't think it's trash. It is a little bit above average for me. So for me, this is a 3 out of 5.
I'm feeling roughly the same, honestly, like a strong 6 to a light 7. Although I thought I was going to end up enjoying it a little more than you because I had heard you were a little disappointed in this record, like going into it. I was like, yeah, I'm actually kind of feeling it, but sort of hearing your thoughts, that second half, it really doesn't come together. And I think it affects the album on a whole in a great way. I mean, greatly, only if only a good chunk of these tracks are just like bonus material or something, I think it could have just made for a more consistent project.
Yeah, Brenda was pretty much the only track on the second half. Just looking at the list right quick. That was the one I think I liked the most on that second half. Just the jazzy production was nice. The way that he handled it and flowed, I thought that was one of the better tracks. But a lot of the songs are forgettable, like Dressed Like Rappers. I do like how he sort of touches on how little boys are dressing like rappers. Can that make them a father? That was an interesting line. So there are bits and pieces of moments where he is saying something, but just not enough for me. Not enough that it's very memorable. And a lot of these songs, they just don't stick out to me. That has been our hopefully concise review on this new Isaiah Rashad record. Thank all you guys for watching. I want to, again, give a thank you and a shout out to my guest in this review, Mr. Luke James. His YouTube channel is linked down there in the description. You can check out his review content that he's dropping all the time as well. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for having me, man. Cool. All right, Anthony Fantano, Luke James, Isaiah Rashad, forever.